A few weeks ago, I had a conversation with a friend who was leaving Christianity, and today I'm talking to a friend who is fairly new to the Christian faith and is very much embracing of Christianity. And my desire with these conversations is to showcase the wide spectrum of those engaging with Christianity with the hopes that our appreciation for those who don't think like us will grow. And I want to remind you that my objective with these discussions is to hold a space for those to share their own perspectives and experiences while recognizing that we all have something to contribute to the discussion on faith. And when I have these discussions with friends, I'm holding a space for them to express their views. These are not my own. For this hour or so, I'm doing my best to get out of the way so that you can hear from them and not me. And I don't do this perfectly, but that is my aim. With all that said, if you want to continue this conversation with me, feel free to email me at hargonw@gmail.com. And if you want to continue this conversation with my friend James Berry, you can follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, at jberry9, or email him at jamesberry35@gmail.com. I hope you appreciate the conversation. Thank you for listening. All right. Well, I'm here with my friend James Berry. We've been friends for a few years now. We met in Texas, and we've still been in dialogue, still talking to each other about various things. When we have a conversation, it's at least an hour. We've had a couple of 2-hour conversations too, just about faith, about our view of the Christian faith, and just we've kind of just been everywhere. So I'm excited to be here with you and to continue a dialogue for others to be engaged with. So thank you, James, for being here. And I want to open up with just kind of some open questions about who you are to give you an opportunity to share yourself with those that are listening. So I'm going to open with that very broad question. Who are you, James?
I appreciate that, Wesley. Thanks for having me. My name is James Berry. I'm 30 years old from Houston, Texas. Um, I grew up in a nominally Roman Catholic upbringing. I was baptized as an infant. Obviously, don't remember that, but baptized there and went we semi regular church attendance until I was about 10 years old. I remember doing in the Roman Catholic faith. Remember doing confirmation and kind of first communion, um, and then at the age of about 10, we stopped going to church in my family. Um, I have a split religious household. My mother grew up Roman Catholic, and my dad did as well, but he drifted more towards the agnostic route. And, and so my mother's a nurse, right? And so she ended up working weekends, and then so mom's working Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. And so next thing I know, we're just not going to church, which for me at the time, my priority is 10 years old. Well, what all I know about church is when I get out, the Texans are in the second quarter.
Uh
And so I'm like, no, seriously, like on the
huh.
radio we'd listen to the Texans game on the way out of church. And so, something in me as a little kid knew, like, you should probably be going,
hmm
right? And but that's that, I'm 30 years old now, and that's kind of how my faith started, growing up that way.
hmm
And didn't enter a, any kind of church in any Christian tradition for about 15 years until you and I
Uh
met.
huh.
And we can kind of pick up that story from there if you like.
Yeah, and that was when I met you when you were about 25-ish. That's when you kind of got latched on to a maybe a church of any kind, really consistently. Is that how you would describe it? Maybe you were just kind of
Yes,
connected more so.
100%, 100%. And for people who may be listening, if you're friends of Wes and follow his work, um, we met at what was called the Church of Christ.
hmm
And I had met Wesley because my girlfriend was a member of that church, and we
hmm
started dating. And she said, "Why don't you come to church with me?"
hmm
And I was like, "Wow!" Again, having not visited any church regularly for the better part of 15 years,
Yeah.
it's like I've not been asked this question by anybody,
Yeah.
right? Would you
Mhm.
so I came, and over the span of a couple of years, we you and I got to know each other,
Mhm.
and that really reignited my questioning of, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? What is the point to my life? So
And there's something else that happened. I'm not sure if it was around that time or before that. I know that you were heavily involved with baseball. Like that was a big part of your life, right? And something happened there. And you mentioned that before. I don't know if you're sure you want to get into that, but that's kind of something that opened up some questions within you about God and maybe meaning a little bit.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I kind of skipped over that, but I wasn't a big school person growing up. I was that kid in class that if I didn't understand what you were teaching me, I'm not going to go home and try to figure it out. That so I made my A's, B's, or C's given how well I knew the material from that 45 minutes to an hour that I was in class. But I did play baseball growing up, and I pursued that all the way through 4 years of college. And so my whole world, it's silly, it's a game, but your whole worldview and the way you interpret everything is was based around sports, athletics, from the age of 22. That that was my rock, my center point. And I didn't have any aspirations to play professionally, because you can kind of, if you're educated enough, you can kind of tell your skill set by a certain age, kind of like 14 or 15. Um, I had friends who played professionally, and but I was not good enough for that, and I had accepted that many years before I finished playing. But at the age of 22, when you finish this over a decade long journey, you're, as you alluded to, you're left with, well, what's next? What's next? This whole thing is over. So what do I do now?
And you kind of just kind of left floating a little bit, and somewhere along the way you got attached to a faith community. And so what were your thoughts when you first arrived at the Church of Christ? What kind of questions did you have, and for, like, maybe for the church itself, or like the questions that were going on within you as you were a part of the community?
I was really came in with a almost like as a blank slate to Christianity. I would say pretty much a total blank slate. Um, I didn't really, what do we believe as Christians? What does it mean to be a Christian? These are all things that I started to really wrap my head around. I'm sitting in the pew on a Sunday morning, and I'm thinking, am I going to be sitting here for the next 50 years of my life, right? What am I going to sit here? Why would I sit here? You start thinking about these things, and so those were the kind of thoughts that started coming my way. Um, and I think every Christian has a lot of doubt. Man, there's just a lot of doubt, um, every step of the way. So you ask, what kind of questions did you have? It was really just, I'm gonna dive in and see how the water feels, and kind of take it one breath at a time. Is because at that point I had known that being a secular person was not going to work out for me. After the baseball short term thinking of, you're just so focused on this, and it could be, chess for anybody. I don't know. That's something you can keep doing no matter how old you are. But once the short term thinking ended, is like, am I just gonna like get a job and like try to make some money? Because that's what society tells you to do as a young man. That's pretty much the best advice. Don't get into debt, and save your money. I mean, just pull any baby boomer off the street, and this is kind of the for right, wrong, or indifferent. I
Yeah,
just
there's a model, right? And we're kind of just given this model, and there's steps, and if if you got there's no room for questions along the way as you have the steps. Like, so like, what if this is not working for me? Like, what do I do then? Because we all have this thing we're given, but we're not given tools to deal with what if that doesn't work out? And what if I can't get the job I want? What if I can't uh, fulfill the dream that I want? Like, what then? Like, what is my existence?
well, God forbid you're a kid like me, and growing up, I never had a desire to be anything. Never wanted to be a doctor, a
Mm,
lawyer, policeman. My dad was a firefighter. I watched him do that his whole life, and that was great. My mom's a nurse. Watch her do that her whole career.
mhm,
She's still working. That's great. Um, I really felt like I
mhm,
had no calling, and no true calling. I
mm.
liked competing in baseball,
Yeah.
but and I think a lot of people feel like they don't have a calling. I really do. And even if you think you are called to practice law or practice medicine, or that, I think that only goes so far. Like at the end of the
Hmm.
day, it can provide you your basic needs of housing and food, and like, you can go to the doctor without necessarily feeling like it's going to cost you your livelihood. Like, sure,
Uh-huh.
but aside from those things, it really just keeps you busy.
Mm.
That's what I think. Aside from those things, it really keeps you busy and is even a distraction.
Especially if you're not dealing with the questions of why we're here, or what is this all about? Mm. So let me get to that next question that I have now. What is exciting you now? No,
Man,
you've talked kind of about this idea of calling and all that. So talk about what's exciting you now.
wow. Well, that's really the ultimate question. For the lack of a better phrase, the $1 million question. And and basically, to we're called to participate uh, in the energy of God.
Mm.
That is why God created us.
Hmm.
That's why God created us all to share. He wanted to share His love with
Hmm.
us. And we are supposed to experience His
Hmm.
energy. Um, Ultimately, to become saints and
Mm.
deified. That is the purpose. For my at this point, that is the purpose of
Hmm.
our lives. And so that's the journey I've been. I'm just sharing my personal experience. That's the journey I've been
Yeah.
on for somewhere between 1 and 2 years
Hmm.
now. Is trying to is fully just embracing why I'm here.
Hmm.
And it's given me that idea, and it's in the Christian tradition. It's called theosis.
Hmm.
Is basically is being united with God by His energy. Because be we cannot be God. God is the first cause in the universe.
Hmm.
We could never be Him. We are creatures. You and I are creatures.
Uh-huh.
We were
That's right.
created,
Yeah.
but God is uncreated.
Hmm.
But what excites me is, what are the so what okay so you're telling me this is the purpose of my life,
Hmm.
but it's not a destination, it's a journey.
Uh-huh.
It's not a checklist. It is a way of living. It's a way of living.
Hmm.
um So you're telling me this is the meaning of my life. What does that entail? What does that mean for me? How am I supposed to behave and act and think? So it's it's very overwhelming, man. Extremely overwhelming, but exciting.
And I appreciate this language. And you've shared some of this stuff with me. You've shared some videos with me. We've talked about some videos together. I haven't been able to dive deeply into all the stuff you've sent me, but the language you're using is unique to a lot of people. So I want to ask about where you're getting some of this language from. I know you're a part of this new church community. Can you talk a little bit about that and your, I guess, the community you're attached to now that's informing how you talk about God?
Yeah, and really, I'm trying to just speak from my personal experience in my life. I don't really have I don't have any authority to be explaining how things work.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do.
Yeah, look, I'm just for the people listening. Oh, who's this? Who's this young guy? He's hey, what does he know? Hey, I'm for real. I agree with you, but before you and I got on, it's like, okay, if these things are not true, if the tenets of Christianity are not true, then what is, right? But to answer your question, so I'm being what they call catechized. I'm being a student in at an Orthodox Christian church in the Antiochian diocese. There's like there's 22 some odd Orthodox Christian churches. They operate based off local jurisdiction, um, and so that's one that I am. You can only be catechized in one place. You can only go to worship in one place at a time, right? So um, I've been attending there at a parish in Houston, Texas. Been attending since April, regularly since April. First time I went was probably December of 23. But I've been regularly attending since April of 24. Yeah.
And if I'm reading this all and listening to this all correctly, that got you excited. That being a part of that community and getting a part of that, I guess, is a catechism journey or catech. This is very new to me, James. I'm a Protestant. I was trained in a Protestant uh, tradition, so I'm not very sure, and I don't know a lot about the Orthodox Church. But when you got attached to this church, was there something within you that kind of got you, I guess, energized again to think about this Christian faith even deeper?
Yeah, I would say, there's a lot of mainstream journalism articles starting to come out. I think the New York Post did one. We're recording this in mid-January 2025. The New York Post came out with an article sometime around Christmas. And so there's a lot of kind of mainstream attention going towards this. I meant to tell you, our parish has 80 catechumens enrolled. 80. The parish itself is about 350 people. So they're adding about 15-20% to the number. Our priest told us that, and he's in his 30th year at the parish. Just for some, doesn't mean he knows everything, but just for what he's seen at the parish over 30 years, his typical catechism class is anywhere between 9 and 12 people. And for the last 3 or 4 years since COVID, it's 2025 now. So, but for the last several years, they've been baptizing 36 to 40 people a year, as opposed to the 9 to 12 before COVID. And we have 80 people in our class right now. Um, so, so yet what gets you excited about this is really the worship service, which is really the whole point. So, uh, of at least being in the parish, you have to come. You can't be
Mm-hmm.
an online member necessarily permanently, anyways. So, you come to what they call the Divine Liturgy. So now, as a skeptic,
Hmm.
I'm very naturally skeptical person. So when you tell me, it's instead of coming to church, you telling me I'm coming to the divine liturgy. I don't have a degree in English, but I
Uh-huh.
can kind of paraphrase what the
Yeah.
word divine means.
Hmm.
It's not regular. A synonym for divine is not regular or norm. It's special, right? It's special. So I'm like, what is this? I grew up Roman Catholic. Why can't you just call it Mass? But but what the church believes is that during the divine liturgy, heaven and earth are merging together.
Mm.
And if you enter in, yes, yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what's the point of my life? Is it to get the newest Mercedes Benz and the coolest
Mm.
house and like to make more money? Like I'm competitive, right? So like if
Hmm.
you tell me what the rules are, like let's play. So
Hmm.
if the rules are the Mercedes Benz and the house, and I guess that's my only choice. If you tell me what the rules
Hmm.
are, so but when you tell me that in the worship service, the if you when you go in to an Orthodox church, you'll see images, what we call icons, on the walls of the church of saints, of people we believe are present and worshiping with us.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
in the book of, I believe the book of Revelation says that you're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you're telling me to come participate in that. That to me,
Mm.
that matters.
Yeah.
I'm called to participate in that, a
Hmm.
heavenly worship. You have my
Yeah.
attention now. You have my
Hmm.
attention. So cut in any time, but I feel like I'd be doing a disservice not to say what the point. Why should I consider Orthodox Christianity? It's about the liturgy.
And I love this language. I love participation language. This is, um, I know it's within the Protestant, somewhere in the Protestant spaces, but I like you. Even the word when you said energy, you said something about the energy of God, kind of participating in the energy of God. That language is, I like that, and it's very, it paints some things in my mind. Like you said, breaking that through or breaking that down and trying to figure out the implications of that might be challenging, but the language itself is, I think, is pretty compelling. Would you say that too?
It's something I'd never heard of, man. Like I'd never. I heard my whole life, and I grew up in Texas. Texas is very diverse. You got, I live in Houston. Houston has more ethnicities than any city in America represented. There you can find a mosque, you can find a synagogue, you can find, a Shinto temple. You can find anything here in this city. And but so I'd always, and including in that, we have a lot of a good mix of Roman Catholic and various Protestant traditions as well. And through the through the vigor of the Protestant tradition, I'd always heard, the point of your life is to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I'm not saying that's not true, because I do think it's true. I just didn't know what that meant. Like I didn't, I don't know if you've ever been in school where you think the teacher is explaining 1 plus 1 equals 2, and there's a kid in the back and he goes, "Yeah, I just still don't get it." And the teacher's like, "No, really, like this and this is this. Yeah, I just don't get it." And I was that I was that kid for Christianity. I just didn't get it. And it was to the point where I was sad. I felt like everyone else understood something that I didn't understand. And so I was always between the ages of 10 and 25 when we met, and even while we met and I was attending Church of Christ, always kind of looking over your shoulder. I was just always looking over my shoulder, like, what does this mean? And I'm not saying that I'm not saying I have all the answers, but it's kind of like I think it makes me think of the scene in the Gospels, and forgive me, I'm this will show I'm not the world's best Christian. I think it was Peter who saw Jesus walking on the water, and Peter walked out to see him, and he lost his faith and he fell. Right? It makes me that is how I felt, and still kind of feel sometimes, but you want to feel like you're taking those confident steps that you're not going to fall.
Talk more about the differences between what you experience in the Protestant community of faith and the Orthodox community of faith.
I was thinking about it before we sat down for our conversation, and I think of things in terms of a story. Like, I've very average intelligence, which I hope people can kind of gravitate to the conversation that way. Like, I have very average intelligence. I'm really poor in some areas, and I'm really good in other areas. Right. But I think of things in a story, and just because everyone grows up with stories. You're 1 or 2 years old. Yeah, 1 or 2 years old. Your parents are reading you a bedtime story. We understand that so well. And so, to answer your question, um, after being in a Protestant tradition for 2 to 4 years, 2 to 3 years, I I just had a feeling. I was like, man, this isn't the full story. I'm it'd be like, what's your favorite movie?
Ooh, probably Interstellar, Christopher Nolan.
Okay, Interstellar. I've seen it once or twice. I know it's a long movie.
3 hours. Yep.
Okay, I know it's a long movie. What if I showed you, like, the ending of the movie? Like, you love Interstellar. You show me the ending of the movie. You're like, James, wasn't that great? Like you're so hyped about the movie, and you show me the last 30 minutes, and you're like, that's the end of it. Like, how awesome. And I'd be like, I feel, hey, that 30 minutes was really cool. I just feel like I don't get the whole thing.
Especially that movie. That's the worst movie to watch the last 30 minutes of.
So, forgive me, just a normal Joe Blow here might be a bad analogy, but if Interstellar is 3 hours and is complicated, and there's some truth to Interstellar, let's say, like, the Interstellar is about X, it's not about Y. You have to watch the movie to get it. Um, and this is a movie. Okay, we're in the year 2025. What does that mean? Well, Jesus Christ walked the earth and died 2025 years ago. So for me, what's the full story? Take I wanted to understand, once I started taking Christianity more seriously, is what's the whole story? Take me back. So that, and how far back do you go? You really should go back to the creation of the universe, which in our tradition we learned is Jesus Christ who created the universe. I always thought as a little kid it was God the Father. I don't know. I didn't know any better. It's Jesus Christ created the universe. The fall of Adam and Eve. Okay, so that's the beginning. In the beginning, right? Literally in the beginning. And in the Orthodox tradition, as I'm being taught, we call Jesus Christ the new Adam. The new Adam. So that's a reference to the very beginning, right? So it's helping me it's helping me understand the full story, right? You got to see the beginning of the movie for the end to make sense. Um, so that's that's part of my something I didn't really experience necessarily in the Protestant tradition, just personally, literally just
But
personally.
I can understand that. I can relate with that. I want to say that might be part of the reason why so many are leaving. I want to say um, that because I still struggle with what exactly does it mean to have a personal relationship with Jesus, right? Or even what does it mean to be a Christian? And all these spaces are going to define it differently. Um, so I wonder what people are walking away from. Like that's something I've considered. Like if you're as you're leaving Christianity, what exactly are you leaving? And I wonder, if people knew that there are other things to consider, like your particular tradition may not have all of it, right? Maybe there's something you can learn from another tradition or even another denomination. I don't know. But I think that might be something that we might be worth considering. Like, what are we leaving as we leave Christianity?
100%. I think if you leave Christianity, you your only other true answer is nihilism, because without a creator of the universe to get, like I mentioned, I'm competitive. You tell me the rules of the game and let's play. Okay? If the universe is an accident, there's no reason to have any rules. There's if the universe is an accident, and the best argument for the non-Christian paradigm of the creation of the universe is best meaning most scientific, right? I understand there's many religions who have a creation story, and I understand that, but let's stick with what the modern person would call evidence. Okay, people that like the scientific method, they they have no evidence, right? So to fully, I have an undergraduate degree, uh, just a liberal studies degree. I'm just, again, I'm a lay person, but to truly do the scientific method to prove something, you have to replicate your findings. You have to replicate. So if the creation of the universe was a big bang, nothing existed, and then nothing exploded and made the universe. So first of all, nothing cannot explode into something. That this is just not possible. It's but okay. Anyway, even if that did happen, to fully to fully embrace the secular perspective, you would have to replicate that. You'd have to create a universe out of nothing. So it doesn't make any sense. So that's just one part of the equation. That's just one. But the second part is, if you just, hey dude, nothing makes sense to me. Christianity don't make sense to me. Nothing makes sense to me. Yeah, the science part, yeah, we don't really know, but I'm just gonna embrace it and just live my life, dude. That's called faith. This is literally faith, bro. You literally have faith that this is true. But so, and then the third part of it is, so you've accepted, hey, it don't make sense, but whatever. And then the third part is go about living your life. There's no rules. It doesn't matter. You're gonna be dead. You're gonna be dead one day, and everyone's gonna die one day. And the Earth is still gonna spin around the sun. We have a dying star. The sun is a dying star, and one day it's going to fully die out. And I think they say it turns into a black hole. So what's the point? Like, what's the point of? There's no reason to do anything. It's just busy work. And so that you say, okay, what are we leaving behind? If you leave Christianity, you're leaving behind everything, because Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. He is your life. He is the truth. Truth is a person. Truth is a person. Truth is a person. So, there's a look there. I'm not splitting the atom over here, but there's a lot of really good literature, like fictional literature, particularly by old Russian authors who dive into this. That basically, without God, everything is permitted. So if you leave Christianity behind, it's a double whammy. You give up how the cosmos even makes sense, and you're left with the Wild West. You're left with the law of the jungle. Here's the deal. Just last point on that. Okay, we have democracies, we have human rights. Okay, who's keep it high level, basic. Who says Thanos isn't right? Find me the objective truth that says Thanos is wrong. That why isn't it better that we have like a god king emperor who gets all the money and all the housing? Maybe he gets so much like pleasure and achievement to like being the god king human emperor that those happiness points he gets, you end up in the same place as everybody, like having a reasonable place to live. There's no reason that one is better than the other in a secular worldview. It's just a preference. It's just a preference. So Thanos preferred to be the master of the universe. So go ahead and stop him.
Wipe out half the universe, right?
Yes, but if you have a God, if you and the Christian God, who we are all made in His image, to after His image and according to His likeness, after His image and according to His likeness, we are called to be like Him. Did so now you have to go into the evidence of the truth. Did Jesus Christ go around killing people on a whim and snapping his fingers? This is where the rubber meets the road, man.
Yeah, so you brought up a lot of stuff. So I think the heart of what you're talking about, could that be morality? Do you think that morality plays a big part in the Christian framework?
I mean, there you have the Beatitudes, right? You have the Beatitudes. My one of my favorite parts of the Bible is when Jesus talks about, it gives a parable of two sets of sheep. Basically, it's a heaven and hell parable. They will be separated at the end of times, and he says one group, they will not go to heaven. Is I'm paraphrasing. They will not go to heaven because they didn't clothe me, didn't feed me, didn't give me something to drink when I was thirsty. They didn't do these things, and then therefore they say, Lord, when did we see you and not feed you? When did we see you thirsty and not give you something to drink? What are you talking about? When did those things happen? And as you know very well, and many of the listeners may know, he says, assuredly, as much as you did not do these things to the least of my brothers and sisters, that's how you treated me. Like, that is me, because they're made in my image. So it all makes sense. They're made in his we are made in his image. So the morality component, it's such I'm glad you brought it up, and I hope this relates to a lot of people, because for the millennials and younger crowd, is Christianity just a set of morals? Because that didn't do it for me. Because you have a classic thought of skeptical people. And I hear this all the time in my business career. I'm in the real estate industry, and so in Houston, so you have all kinds of people from all different beliefs, and I have to learn how to get along with them, or you're not going to be in business. You can't be prejudiced and be in business when everybody is different. It's not going to work. So a lot of people will tell me, rules are just made up to control you. Okay, so if so is Christianity just a set of morals? I don't. I know you're not saying that, but it's so much more than that. It'd be like, there's the letter of the law, and then there's the spirit of the law, and I think the spirit is paramount.
So I brought that up because I'm wondering, some of these thoughts that you're sharing, there's something that clicks with someone. You can, like, there's a book that I read. years ago. You ever heard this guy named Frank Turek? He's a big time Christian apologetic guy.
No, actually, no. So please tell me.
Yeah, so he has
Hmm.
this book called "I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist." That's what he says. That's the name of the book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And I didn't read the whole book, but the premise of the book is that it requires faith to not believe. That's what he says. I bring him up because some people can read his book and be like, "Oh yeah, so I'm with this and I understand this, so I'm a Christian now." But some people can read this book and be like, "I I still don't get it. I still don't understand this faith." So I'm trying to figure out what is it that latches us on, because some people may be agreeing with everything that you're saying, but there's still something, there's still a gap. So I'm wondering, right where I am in my faith and my understanding is that I think maybe faith is a gift itself. Like what we have, like this attachment to the Christian faith is it's a gift from God. And I, I I don't even know why I am attached to it. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily have to have everything lining up for me, like intellectually. Um, but I've been attached to this, and it's like something that's growing, and there's a presence, there's a love that I've been participating in, and something that's been energizing me. Um, so I'm saying all this to say, like, it's complicated, and how why people walk away, I think it's complicated too. I think we can have all the things lined up, but still, like, this doesn't make sense to me. But there was something with you. So what was that with you that okay, this is it. This is why I am on this journey.
I'll tell you the. It's really two parts. One, in my mid to late 20s, finally starting to go into the Gospels seriously, um, and it just, this is just my personal anecdote, but through reading the Gospels, saying, "Wow, if there was a creator of the universe, I think they would be saying things like this." That was just hitting me. So that's an anecdote. Um, and again, okay, to be a secular person considering Christianity, show me the evidence, show me the objective reality. Okay, in the Christian tradition, truth is a person. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And look, the Bible even teaches us. Jesus even teaches us that a wicked generation will seek miracles for signs and evidence. Like, eventually you have to have faith. There is we part of our catechism. You have to have faith in anything. Like your author Frank, what was his last name? Started with a T. What was the last name? Frank Turek says you do need faith to be an atheist, and he said he didn't have enough of it. You eventually you have to trust something, or you have to just be like, man, I don't know how we're here, and I'm just gonna live my life. Uh, to me, I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. Like, to focus enough at work to pay my taxes, to like brush my teeth and like do my laundry, like all the stuff you have to do just to get through life, all the fine print, right? The fine print. You gotta brush your teeth in the morning. You gotta go to bed, get some sleep. Gotta pay your taxes. Like, all this stuff for what? So I can get sick. I'll do nothing. Once you're in your 20s, you'll do nothing but get older, look worse, get sicker, and feel worse. It's basically right around the time you can even get like your decision making as a male doesn't even develop in the part of your brain till you're 25. So you get a few years until you're no longer growing. You're declining. At least as a teen, and this is why teenagers, right, are kind of so naive, because they're still developing. Like, they're like turning into like butterflies. So okay. uh, so show me the objective evidence on. You think all this is an accident? Dude, if this is an accident, I'm not paying my taxes. Like, I'm gonna play video games or do whatever. Like, I'm just gonna. It's total. It's total. There's no reason for it not to be hedonistic. It's good. Was good for you. It's good for you to get a job and to XYZ, whatever the morality is of the society. Well, I disagree. So now what? It's just footnotes. Well, you'll be happier. Well, wasn't what is it? Are we here to be happy? Who said we're? It doesn't make any sense, man. It's just whatever. Hey, that's your preference, bro. That's your preference. How are what? How are things supposed to be? That's my question, and I haven't found any flaws. I haven't found anything that made me say, I'm out so far in my experience.
And so a question I was thinking about as you were saying that, um, you're talking about, yeah, this framework that's giving you, I think you would say it's giving you stability, right? It's giving you a ground to stand on, and maybe just confidence in your life, right? Maybe that's a way to frame your experience with Christianity is.
You either embrace Christianity or it's an accident, or maybe it's another religion, but they're I'm a very logical person. It has to, and it's simple logic. I'm not into like abstract algebra or whatever, but there's a philosophical argument for the Christian God. You know, Jesus Christ is the prerequisite to have laws of even logic in the universe. Because as an atheist, you have no basis for how there was order in the universe. If the universe was a chaotic accident, how did true principles emerge out of chaos? That doesn't follow. It doesn't follow. Why how do atoms even stick together at all? Right? And really, there look, I get it. There's 5 billion people in the world, and 60% of them don't think the way we think. So I understand there's other perspectives out there, and I'm not gonna end the conversation today. But the point in all this is that no matter which path you can either be a Christian or not be a Christian. Okay, so in that framework, there's a binary path. No matter which path you choose, it's going to require faith. We can at the end of this conversation, you and I can agree on that. And I think if you poke them hard enough, the secular people agree too. There has to be faith involved to live a secular life. You're taking so many things for granted in terms of a philosophical worldview, like murder, like murder, like the ending of a life. Why does a life have value? Well, we voted on it. Dude, come on, man. Like, I'm out. I'm totally out. Because it's the because I said so thing, right? And in the ancient Christian faith, look, hey James, you're telling me, well, I think God's rules are arbitrary. God's laws are arbitrary. Okay, I can grant you that. He's also the uncreated being, though. He's uncreated. You're created. Your opinion doesn't matter. Okay, logically that makes sense to me. My opinion's not relevant. He set things up this way. That's how it is, and I have to deal with it. So that logically makes sense. You may not like that answer, but it logically makes sense. So I'm swallowing that pill at the same time as I'm being prideful and you have your ego involved if you want things a certain way, if you just stick around long enough, you're told, yeah, but God wants to share his energy with you. There's a part in the Bible Jesus even says where he's arguing with the Jews and he says, does your own beliefs not tell you that you are God's? So we are all God. We have the ability to be united with God and experience his energy too. And oh, here's the crazy part, man. This is not an abstract concept of happens after when you die. I'm not talking about heaven. I'm talking about here on earth. You can be Devite and experience what they call the divine light. That's why in the ancient Christian tradition, people have halos painted around their head. It's to symbolize that they had the divine energy and light of God inside of them. So you tell me this now. Now I'm sticking around.
Yeah. Yeah, even
This is the real substance. Go ahead.
yeah, I think even what you're saying seems like something that's very real and something that is something you experience. Is something that it's not just lofty and far away. Like I think you're talking about a faith that is this is all up in my life, right? And it's transformative.
This is why you come to the liturgy. Yeah, this is why they have you come to the liturgy on Sunday. You can participate in the energies of God with communion. He said in the gospel again. I'm speaking to a Christian. I'm not going to try to convince the secular person. We've already done that. You need faith either way. Christ himself said that this is my body, this is my blood. He who does not do this has no life in him. So the church calls these things mysteries. You don't fully understand it down to every atom. Like life is not just about a bunch of facts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's not just a it's not that's not the point. From the Christian perspective, that's not the point. So come to the liturgy and you actually experience union with God, and it changes your heart. And then ultimately when you die, which means when your soul leaves your body, because in the Christian tradition, the soul holds the body. A lot of people think that the body holds the soul. It's the other way around. Your soul holds your body. When your soul lets go, you will experience God one way or another in either a form of not really punishment but displeasure, or you're experiencing God either way. There's no getting out of it. That's the point. When I look, there's no getting out of it. So you might as well figure out what it's about. But you're right, it is practical. It is practical. You're going to experience have life. He gives you life. So there's a good story about that. I want you to jump in, but there's a very good story about that.
Yeah, go ahead. Share the story.
I'm not a big reader. I love the idea of reading, but I was reading this Russian book called Fathers and Sons. It's a 19th century book. Um, it's a story about generational differences between fathers, and their sons. Okay, so the father represents tradition and stability and those kind of things, right? That kind of makes sense to me, right? So the father is he's religious, he's Christian, and the son is leaving university, coming home for the summer. He's in college, and the son brings a friend. The friend is a botanist. He does experiments. He's a rationalist atheist. So the book is about the conflict between the dad, his son, and his friend, all just commingling, living together for the summer. Okay, so that's the long story. The short story is at the end of the book, atheist pricks his finger while doing an experiment, poisons himself, and he's going to die. Like fatal. He knows it. As soon as he pricked his finger, he's like, "Oh well, that sucks. That's it for me." So he's dying. The atheist is dying. He is at his parents' house as he's dying, and he's an atheist. So that's the end of your heartbeat in the middle of a meaningless. It's just that's the end. Well, the atheist father begs his dying son to let a priest come and administer communion to him before he dies. Hardly a mention of Christianity or religion anywhere in the book until this moment. And it's because the teaching of Christ is that this is what gives you life. So the father is trying to save his son's soul on his deathbed. And we are not told, we're none in the ancient Christian tradition, we're not told the destiny of our individual souls. Either way, you're experiencing God, though, is what my understanding is. It could either be in heaven or in the burning, the judgment, burning lake of fire, right? So you're experiencing God either way. I guess to God, it's just details for you. You get to decide where you're going. But so I'm reading this book, and it's like coming out of nowhere. The father wants him to take communion, and I'm like, wow, I totally get it now. And so he dies. They bury him. He dies. They give him a tombstone with a cross, and the book basically ends by saying that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And you're just like, I want to know what happened to him, right? But we're not told these things. We're not told these things, and just closing out this conversation, for me, I'm okay with that.
So there are two words that I really appreciated from this conversation. Is participation. I think I've heard this all throughout. I think your experience with the Christian faith is something that is participatory, and you even touched on mystery too, and something that I think is something we should talk more about. Mystery, just in general in the Christian faith, because yeah, I don't think it's about the facts. I don't think it's about getting everything right. I think there is something beyond us, and I think when we walk the Christian faith, when we participate in the Christian faith, we are submitting to something beyond us and dancing, I think, with something beyond us, metaphorically speaking. So I really appreciate you sharing your perspective on the Christian faith and even your engagement with Christianity. And yeah, any encouraging words that you would like to share? If this was the last video you ever made, what would you like to encourage others with faith or life?
I would say life is a gift. I think I think everybody accepts that, because there's another Russian writer, I think it was Tolstoy. He said the only serious person in this life is someone who commits suicide. I believe it was Tolstoy. He thought everything was meaningless, and at some point in his life, although I think he was also Christian, but I think it was Tolstoy. It's like, look, dude, you're gonna get sick and die, and it's gonna suck. So you might as well just opt out of the whole painful experience. People don't believe that. We don't believe that you've accepted that life is a gift. What are you gonna do with it? And so it's tough to kind of think about what I'd say to maybe a secular audience or Christian audience. But if you've accepted that life is a gift, what do you do with it? It's precious. So I think a lot of people are searching for that answer, and in many ways I am too.
Mhm. Yeah, we're all searching, right?
Yes, yes.
I appreciate your words, and I appreciate this conversation, James. Thank you.
You're an excellent interviewer, and it gets me every time, because I always, on our conversations, I always set out to ask you a bunch of questions, but you're too good at what you do. You're up there, man. So keep
I
doing,
appreciate that,
yeah,
James.
keep doing your thing, and you're, a lot of young people, young, it is relative, but a lot of people feel young on the inside. They're like, no, I have so much
Hmm.
more time. This cannot be what's
Yeah.
happening to me. So in that sense, a lot
Yeah.
of young people are going to find your work, and it's
Mm.
a blessing, and it's good work.
Mm. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. I want to thank you so much for listening to this conversation with me and my friend James. I hope that the discussion was helpful for you in some way. Theology, in a lot of ways, is similar to prayer. I think theology is more reflective and prayer is more relational, but there is a deep connection between the two. Theology shapes your prayer, and prayer shapes your theology. You can't have one without the other. We don't have perfect theology, but we are making attempts. We are participating, and the same is true for prayer. So, with that said, I would like to end us with this prayer. To the first cause, we give you thanks for reality as it is. To the creator of the universe, we give you thanks for including us in your story. To the source of energy, we give you thanks for inviting us to participate in your divine activity. In things we hold certain, grant us humility. In things we hold with doubt, grant us trust. Grant us the courage to live in love, wherever we are, however we can, with all that is around us, trusting that you are all and in all. This we pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.